So I watched that new Chainsaw movie. It's pretty good. Some of it is really good. I mean, damn, just listen to this soundtrack. Listening to Iris Out made me procrastinate like 10% less while I'm eating cereal in the morning. Anyway, the movie does have one flaw, in my opinion, which I will dub the Man of Steel problem. How does Henry Cavill tie into my absurdist horny anime movie, you may ask? Let's make sense of that together, shall we? By the way, I'm going to be spoiling this shit out of the movie as well as season 1 of Chainsaw Man. If you haven't seen it but like the show, it's a no-brainer. Go watch it. Alright, we good? Let's go. The movie picks up right after the events of season 1 with our core trio living a relatively quiet life compared to when we last saw them. Things are so chill, in fact, that Makima has time to take Denji out on a date. How cute. Beyond the creepy grooming of it all, there are a few interesting takeaways here. Makima decides they will go theater hopping for their date, and movie after movie, neither character is enjoying themselves. After each viewing, the pair lament on how the other moviegoers were enthralled with the experience, but Makima and Denji, they were more like this. Makima explains that for every 10 films she watches, only one is worth seeing, but that one changes her life. And sure enough, by the end of the day, on the final film with a completely empty theater, the pair watch a seemingly innocuous movie that doesn't have the horror or the comedy or the romance of the previous, but a small scene where two characters embrace before parting ways, and it's enough to bring both Denji and Makima to tears. When scenes like this happen in movies, it's usually some sort of meta commentary about what you're watching, so what are the takeaways here? On a character level, we get the contrast of the cold, calculated and distant Makima who is going through the motions of a meticulously planned date with Denji, and then contrast this later with the spontaneous and fun energy of Reze. When Makima and Denji are brought to tears, two characters who face death without flinching, a simple character moment is what does it. I believe the allegory here is for the pool scene later in the movie. In a film that is packed to the brim with explosive action, gore, and absurdist comedy, the most powerful scene for a lot of people ended up being, you guessed it, a simple character moment. What makes Denji such a compelling character despite appearing clinically retarded at times is that he is very much a victim of his environment, completely oblivious to the manipulation of people like Makima, but it's through the new experiences he is gaining he pieces together how he feels about the world and his place in it. Insert Reze. A bubbly, charismatic, pretty girl who need only show him the slightest amount of interest in Denji as a person, not a weapon or a tool, but just a boy, and it shakes him to his very core. In the space of just a day with Reze, he starts to question whether he could feel the same way towards her as he does towards Makima. What gives Reze the depth and light of her actions later in the movie is that she takes a genuine interest in Denji, teaching him basic things like reading, writing, and eventually how to swim, none of which further her ultimate goals. Reze sneaks Denji into a school at night to go skinny dipping, an act of youthful rebellion which hits all the right beats of innocent fun. A glimpse at a life either of these characters might have had only they been born under different circumstances. However, there is something a little unnerving about this scene from the very start. Whilst we watch Denji fall in love, experiencing what life as a normal teenager is like for probably the first time, the film subtly ratchets up the anxiety and you may not even notice it. Every now and then, we cut away from the pool to a great black spider in her web. The music disappears completely, leaving only the ambience of the night and a predator lying in wait. Each time we cut back to the spider, Denji has fallen deeper for Reze, and as he gets closer to her, the spider gets closer to a butterfly that has found itself tangled in its web. By the end of the pool scene, Denji has fallen completely for Reze, and the spider is feeding on the blood of its prey. A really cool detail which will have alarm bells going off in your head, but you may not even consider fully until a rewatch. Can I also just say, I like how the nudity is tasteful with a lack of certain details, preventing the scene from being gratuitous or fan servicey. Good job, Japan, you managed to not be horny for once. Of course, nothing good lasts in this world because on their very next date, Reze reveals the truth, in glorious fashion too, might I add. biting off Denji's tongue during a kiss and attempting to kill him right then and there. In comes Beam, low-key the goat of this movie. I expected to hate this character. I usually hate the loud equals funny character, and while he is that, for some reason this just worked on me. He defends Denji fearlessly from Bomb despite having zero hope of actually defeating her, managing to get Denji to a public safety facility nearby and buying him some time to recover. This is also our first display of Bomb's real power, as she massacres the entire force in spectacular fashion. Now at this point we have around 40 minutes of movie left, and I gotta tell you, it's pretty much non-stop action from here until the end of Act 3. We get a few cute interactions between Aki and Denji, but for the most part, it's Beam and Denji versus Bomb and Typhoon, and I gotta tell you, the destruction in this movie is borderline apocalyptic. I have no idea how Tokyo recovers from this shit. You seeing the parallels with Man of Steel yet? This is part of my problem with the movie. The action is incredible. The animation, mind-bendingly impressive. I genuinely had my jaw on the floor, just in shock of how they managed to pull this off. But after a certain point, it starts to kind of blur together. There are genuinely no fucking breaks. We get very few character moments between Denji and Bomb during this fight, and the rest of the cast is neglected almost entirely. Each blow starts to feel meaningless as the action just keeps going and going and going, and you realize no one is really in any real danger because the runtime quota hasn't been met yet. While I'm on complaints, you might have noticed that Power has not been mentioned in this script. Yeah, that's because she got sidelined in the first 10 minutes of the movie. Aki has a pretty low amount of screen time, spending most of his time with Angel, which is great, but rarely does he get to spend time with Denji, which is personally my favorite dynamic. I get why, of course, Denji needed time with Reze and Aki needed time with Angel, but I still felt a little disappointed if I'm honest. Oh, Kobeni shows up for what amounts to like a cameo, so yeah, that was certainly a choice. The movie closes out with Denji defeating but ultimately sparing Reze, asking her for one more date at the cafe where they met. She snaps his neck and walks away, but the ever persistent bastard calls after her, insisting that he will be there. Cut to the cafe and we find out that, true to his word, Denji is waiting for her. Finally accepting, she wants to find out what life could be like with him. Then Makima shows up to ruin the day, dismembering Reze and presumably killing her in a dirty alleyway. Now, the interpretation I've seen of this is Makima can't let Denji stray from her influence, but while yeah, that's probably true, we have to remember, Reze did this. She is an Avengers level threat and a terrorist. Makima is doing her job and the right thing as far as I'm concerned. But all the same, Denji waits patiently in the cafe, smiling to himself at the thought Reze might show up. Damn, bruh. So that was Chainsaw Man Reze, a banger of a movie, huh? I'd give it an 8. As mentioned, the action went on too long for me personally. Would have loved more character work, but all in all, can't be too fussy when the quality is on this level. Shout at me in the comments if you disagree with my opinion. If you want more Trev content, check out my reviews playlist on screen now, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.